Hey guys, quick video. I want to talk about what I believe is one of the best support weapons in the game right now, and that's the grenade launcher Stellar Finality. Now I'm well aware of how weak weapons feel right now, and grenade launchers are potentially the worst weapon type in the game because they have a lot of AoE and lots of ammo but no real damage to back it up. So they end up just being ragdoll machines. So what makes Stellar Finality so special despite all that? Its passive doesn't even buff your character in any way. The answer to that question is its stats and mechanics. Stellar Finality is mostly a crit focused weapon that does smash damage, and the smash bonus effect multiplies damage done to stance by 2 times. And as it happens, Stellar Finality has barely enough trigger probability to make a bonus effect build possible. But the positives don't stop there. This weapon fires cluster bombs that also trigger bonus effects at the same rate, so we can do a lot of extra stance damage for free. The reason stance damage is so important is for a number of reasons. You do more damage when a boss is stunned, you get resources back like energy and ammo when you break a stance bar, and in some cases you can even ignore boss's mechanics. Here's a quick tip. If a boss is a higher level than your character, you should never ever do a finisher on them. The damage isn't a percent of their HP, it's a flat amount of damage that scales with your character's level. Also, stabbing the boss gives them iframes when they wake up, but if you don't stab them, only their stance bar gets iframes. Now truth be told, this weapon did get nerfed since the pre-release versions of this game. Man, I wonder who's responsible for that. And frankly, isn't as strong as it once was. With a reduced trigger probability and increased spread of the cluster bombs means to get the most out of this weapon, we are going to need explosion range. And unless you have a golden version of the explosion range demon wedge that I'm not entirely sure exists because demon wedges aren't in the archive yet, you're going to need to smelt additional copies of this weapon because by default, even with the blue explosion range demon wedge, it's not enough to make all the cluster bombs hit a small target like Sybil, for example, but if the boss is even a little bit bigger than Sybil, this is far less of an issue. And in the case of the Battle Maven and the Devourer boss, they have the 2 lowest stance bars in the game, so it's pretty much wraps for them. Now for those of you who haven't hit trial rank 55 yet to get Stellar Finality, there is a cheaper alternative, and that is the Destructo Grenade Launcher, which has slightly better stats for this build and gives your character range, but it doesn't have cluster bombs. Also in the future, if there is a spread reduction demon wedge, then the bow arclight will also be pretty good at stance reduction because it is also a smash weapon with a decent trigger probability, and it actually buffs your characters directly. Now there is a catch to these weapons, and that's outside of bosses, this weapon does basically nothing, and in some cases it's worse than nothing because of all the drawbacks of grenade launchers currently. The main issue being ragdolling. This isn't an issue for most of the cast, like Lynn for example, who hits all enemies on screen with every bullet, but if your name is Psyche and you are actually playing her instead of leaving it to the AI, you need to either learn how to manipulate enemy spawns and herd enemies towards walls, get better at hitting airborne targets, or shit in your hands and clap. The choice is yours. With that said, I've actually done most of my imaginary theater like this, and it's honestly not so bad, but I'd recommend switching maybe one of the grenade launchers out for Arclight or another buffing weapon against Christophile, because this first phase doesn't start with a stance bar at all, and he's likely to be nearly dead before you even get a stance break off on him. Now the way to build this weapon in a way that maximizes stance break, we need as much trigger probability and multi-shot as we can possibly get on this weapon. We don't care about the weapon's personal damage at all, so no attack wedge, just anything and everything that gives us those 2 stats. Explosion range is also important, so more cluster bombs hit the target for more smash bonus effects. Now there are open slots for extra quality of life, like using Carefree, which gives us a 30% chance to reload a bullet when triggering a bonus effect, paired with the Quiver's loadout, which gives us 200% max ammo at the cost of reload speed, and for the most part we won't have to reload with a high enough trigger probability. Other things to note on your combat partners, as long as they are not an animo character that uses their ultimate often, the best middle demon wedge for your combat partners is Steadfast, which gives them hit stun immunity. Grenade launchers have self-stagger, though in Stellar Finality's case, it's only the main explosion and not the cluster bombs. Melee enemies will also be a double whammy since they will try to close the gap, and melee hits stagger as well. So they will get interrupted quite often without this, and that can negatively impact your support ability uptime as well. Anyway guys, that's all for me. I want to thank you guys for watching, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.